every single day, I'm reminding myself that my brain's job is to keep me alive. It's not to make me happy, but it's to keep me alive. So when we think I'm not good enough, it's just because it wants to prevent you to die.
Hello, and welcome to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I'm Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza, a life coach, psychologist, and your host. Join me on a journey to inspire and transform ordinary lives into something special. Here, we celebrate the unicorns, those who choose not to follow the ordinary conventional path, but rather chase after their dreams and choose the path less taken, making them truly unique. Together, we'll explore powerful life coaching techniques and hear from special guests who embody the spirit of unicorns in their own way. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a very unique individual. She's Swiss, she's fun, and also a confidence coach. She focuses on this little nagging voice in your head that can be quite annoying. So when you get coached by her, you'll have this little voice under control so that you finally accept, love yourself, and have a lot of fun without an uncomplicated life. So without further ado, welcome Tamara Pflug.
Thank you so much. I just imagine now all the applause, like people applauding in my entrance. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice of you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So why don't you tell us a little about yourself and what got you in this field?
Yeah, it's a great question. So about myself, I'm originally from Geneva, Switzerland. I will share two random facts because I think people don't expect me to say this at this point. They just want me to actually get into being confidence coach. But yeah, I will just start by saying that I'm all about chocolate, which is not so random since I'm from Switzerland. But I love milk chocolate. I love every cake that is like with chocolate chips. Like you get me at the world of chocolate, and a dessert without chocolate is not dessert at all for me. And the other random fact is that I really don't like cilantro, like coriander. People usually, I knew you would find it interesting. People usually at restaurant tell you, like the waiter, but don't worry, you're not gonna taste it in your meal. So I'm like, why are you putting it inside if I'm not gonna taste it? I don't understand. So just don't put it at all. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna taste it. So these were two random facts about me. And yeah, as I said, from Geneva, Switzerland, I used to be a teacher, and kids were so nice, so spontaneous, natural, authentic. They say everything that's on their mind. Like I love it. And I discovered a bit back then already that I was interested in personal development. And then I heard about there is such a thing, life coaching. So I learned life coaching, and I saw that we can get coached on our life. Not only professional athletes can get coached, but we can take our life to the next level by getting coached on our relationship, our emotions, all of making a decision and having your own back. Like just knowing that there's no right or wrong decision. And I saw this, and then you can make a career out of this. And so I kind of love teaching, but I felt like there was this missing piece about personal development. So I let my career on the side for the moment as a teacher, and I started coaching people. And I used to coach on so many different topics, such as procrastination, time management, dating a lot at some point. I don't know why the universe was sending me lots of dating coaching. And I realized that deep down, it came down very often to self-worth, what permission we give ourselves, like what to believe about ourselves. And I decided also, because I was struggling with this a lot and got coached on confidence. So I became a confidence coach. And then I added the fun tagline recently, just because I think that we can take ourselves and life way less seriously than we actually do. And we can find joy in everyday life. And you will be surprised, people want more fun and are willing to pay for more fun. I did not know, but it's been fun. This is in a nutshell.
I love that. And we can never incorporate more fun into our life. I feel that sometimes we take things so seriously that we forget how to laugh and how to find the fun in every single aspect. And I know that work, sometimes we're taught that it has to be a very serious, very professional, uniform. However, the only way you're going to love what you do is if you have fun with what you do. So add that in there and whatnot. So confidence. When we hear confidence, I think of a person who's standing up straight, kind of Superman or Wonder Woman type of pose. So define confidence for us and how you get started with someone to start working on their confidence.
Yes, it's a great question. Very accurate, right on topic. So I think for me, confidence, it's funny because I have my definition. I think you have too. And people, when I start working with people, or just by asking them, often people have their own definition as to in what situation of their life they feel like they lack confidence, and in what situation they feel like they are very confident. So to me, really self-confidence is having the ability and the willingness to allow any kind of emotion. Because very often we are afraid of like what people are going to think if I fail. But when you really think about it deep down, what is like going to happen is feeling a negative emotion, uncomfortable emotion. But when we know how to feel this emotion, process it, and not making it mean anything about us, we can actually totally like have a beautiful life because nothing can really touch us. It's not really a bubble, but it's just this integrity, like having your own back no matter what decision you make. Yeah, I think really feeling at home inside of you and feeling that you don't take things personally. People can be whoever they want. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, sounds very suddenly I got stuck on it, but I think it's just about feeling really good, I think, in your own skin. And again, yeah, for me, trait is willingness and ability to feel any kind of emotion because really deep down, when we feel insecure, self-doubt, all of these emotions that are very tied to like confidence, when you think about it, it's just an emotion. We can always go from there. So this is a
Perfect. So how does one start? Let's say somebody has low confidence. How can they start working to increase it?
yeah, something I'm all about simplicity. So something very simple, which easy and simple are not the same. Like easy, something it can be very easy, but not simple to do. But this can be easy and simple actually. So you have it all for today is the very first thing that I think is also very, like everybody can do it starting right now is to stop believing what we are thinking. Like most of us, we are not aware, like you don't know what you don't know, which is totally fair for everybody, but we have 60,000 thoughts per day, you, me, and it's a lot of noise. When you mentioned the little nagging voice, it's like talking all day long. And very often, no, not often, all the time until we are aware, we believe that it's just the truth. It's just like what's happening is just the reality, but it's like we're wearing glasses. So everything we're thinking, we believe it to be true, and then we act on what we're thinking, which is based by cognitive behavioral therapy, that basically your thoughts create your life, like your relationship, your job, it all started with something we were thinking, which is very empowering because if we want something to be different in our life, we just, quote unquote, have to look at what we're thinking. So to answer your question, I think the very easy step for today and simple is just to get out of your body really and look at yourself thinking. For example, when we think the thought, I'm just not good enough. I hear this a lot. I'm not good enough. But when you think about it, it's just a thought. But if you think it and you go out in the world and you act thinking this, we can see the difference from somebody, as you mentioned before, that is confident, not having this thought. Maybe not I'm extraordinary, but just, yeah, I'm just okay as I am, something more neutral. But I am not good enough. We just believe it to be true. But we don't have to believe everything we think. Like our brain's job, and I love, for me, even every day, I'm reminding myself this, even me, because I'm a confidence coach, I have to be a product of my product. But what I'm trying to say is that every single day, I'm reminding myself that my brain's job is to keep me alive. It's not to make me happy, but it's to keep me alive. So when we think I'm not good enough, it's just because it wants to prevent you to die, literally.
Our brain is somewhat primitive in our responses, like the fight, fright, freeze.
Your brain just fight now.
Exactly, just fight. No. And we sometimes it's learned behaviors from our ancestors, from our families, from our cultures, from our environment that we need to fear something, but just because we used to fear it doesn't mean we need to fear it now. One of the biggest things I learned the other day was that the reason we fear being alone is because back in the day, we could not survive in the wild by ourselves. We needed a group to help us hunt, help us gather, keep body heat. And if you were by yourself, you would die. So now we have ample access to so many resources. We have access to so much more knowledge and our fingertips. That is no longer true. So we need to learn how to fight those fears. And you said, build the confidence in yourself in order to grow. So I completely agree with you 1,000%. You have to really challenge that mindset.
Yeah. And it's so exactly right what you said about the tribe. I think that I used to think about this like all the time because also when we have these thoughts such as I'm not going to be good at, I'm not going to do this perfectly. For example, when we are very perfectionist, but like, yeah, I prefer not to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to be perfect enough. All of these thoughts, it's really exactly what you said. It's the brain. 85% of what we think on a daily basis is negative because exactly what you said, the brain is looking for danger just from this survival space that it's looking. It's like when there is an accident on an ambulance. I'm the kind of person, No, I don't look when I'm driving. But I think our brain, the survival protections, as you said, is looking at it like, am I going to die? Am I in danger? This is why actually it's just normal. But I wish we would grow up at school and people will know. Also, people pleasing, all of this. When we lack confidence, I agree with you. We just want to be accepted by other people because back then being alone meant like you're really like not surviving. Yeah, it's exactly right what you said, the tribe. And I like to remind myself that I'm normal. It's just my brain. It's so true, the tribe.
Yeah. It's once you really start thinking about it, you're like, wow, that's so true. Why don't I go that way? When it comes back to confidence and just in general, the clients that you've worked with, what have been some of the barriers that you've noticed? I know you said like self-thoughts were a big thing. So what are some of those conversations that you have with them that you feel can help them amplify a little bit better?
Yeah, for sure. What is interesting really in these conversations is often when it actually confidence, and I think it's the base of a lot of coaching that I'm doing, which sometimes it's not always on confidence, but it always comes back, as I said. It's really about the blaming the circumstances, blaming the reality for how we are feeling. And in the world, which I think this distinction again is worth $5,000 just to have it in our head and think about it for the rest of our life, is that in the world you really have circumstances on one side, which are facts, like neutral facts such as your age, what I was going to say, yeah, nationality probably, like your passport, like things that would be accepted in the court of law, that everybody would be accepted, let's say in one country to keep things simple. These are like the neutral circumstances. And on the other side, you have the thoughts, which explain why in the same situation, like one dinner, two people will have completely different thoughts about the same event. So I like that you're like nodding. Yeah, actually. So you really have the circumstances and the reality, which people always, we blame it. Yeah, but I feel this way because of this person, because of that is happening. But actually, between there is always what we are thinking, which again is where our power resides. So no, I'm not sure about the question you asked, but to say, yeah, I think with the conversation we had with the people, this was this not during, the coaching is really actually putting back this power into my clients' hands and actually people that are listening, and just knowing that very often we try to change the world, we try to change people, which it's been so ineffective. If there was a way, I'm telling you, I would not be talking to you. I would be super, super rich on a beach, but actually it's just much more efficient to change what we're thinking in a situation. Because again, we act in the world according to what we're thinking. I believe it to be true because then again, I feel a lot of responsibility over what I'm creating because it's my thoughts. But at the same time, it's so empowering, like just to think a second that nobody has to change. The world doesn't have to change for us to feel better. Just much more empowering because again, and it goes with this idea that no matter what we try to do or not do, going to the gym, it's because we think we're going to feel a certain way. So again, I find it relieving somehow that we just have to look at what we're thinking to genuinely feel better. Did I sell you on this?
Yes. And something you said stuck out to me. You said
Yeah.
the world does not have to change in order for us to feel better. I think it's very powerful because we can't control the world around us. It's going to happen. We need to control what we do. So we're the ones who need to change and adapt to make ourselves feel better. We can't keep expecting other people or our environment to change if we don't do the change inside.
Yeah, and I think we do have sometimes, and it's funny you mentioned this because next week I'm doing a back to control week, which actually it's always coming back to trying to control again the world and others to feel better. And yeah, it's so true what you're saying. I do think there's a little chart that I love to show where you have one circle in the middle showing what I do have control over, like my thoughts, my action, my feelings, and another very hard for visuality now that I'm showing it like this, and another circle where it shows what it's outside of my control, which is people's feelings, which very often we feel responsible for other people's feeling, for other people's happiness. But we feel also like people's action, people's thoughts, like it's all out of our control. We can influence it, we can inspire them, but it just deep down in the end of the day, it's so much work for us to be in their business when nobody's in our business. So exactly what you said. It's interesting that this resonated with you more than anything else.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I've actually used that model, at least a variation of it. I think it's like circles, right? The inner circle, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
it grows out. Yeah, and it's very amazing when you actually practice and do that because you see what exactly is in your scope of control and what is not.
I think what is again relieving about this is also what is in your control then you do what you can from where you are, but then you realize it's a choice that I'm making. I think the idea also of, and it's another confident tip that we can share also, is instead of saying, for example, I have to, or I don't have the choice, to always put things back. We have always the choice. Even if it's to feed our children, it's very hard to say, but deep down, it is true that we choose to feed them. We could also not. So it's just very empowering to see that we choose everything we do. So when it comes to what is in our control, we can really, it's all in our control, much more, like all. It's saying the opposite, but there is so much more that is in our control. And then again, we want to control others because we think we're going to feel a certain way. If you get yourself to feel this way, like just, for example, loved, again, part of the tribe, we do need other people's love. But when we feel so much love for ourselves, other people are just a bonus, and it's amazing. Yeah. But it's funny that you knew the charts I was talking about, the image.
Yeah, it's a good practice to do. And you really have to ask yourself there has to be a balance, because you can't control everything and you can't want to control everything. And I think that usually stems from wanting to taught that you have to be perfect. And then if you really peel the layer a little bit more, it's you want to feel perfect because you want to be accepted by the person that you're trying to show off that you're perfect. So the surface problem is usually not the problem. So you have to dig deeper. So really ask yourself, as you're doing these type of exercises, like whether it be to build confidence, to see your areas of control, what is the stem, like the root of the problem, and then start fixing that. Because if you start fixing the symptoms, it'll feel a little bit better and you'll get some progress, but it's good. Other problems are going to emerge.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you said it all. It was really complete. And it's true when it comes to control, but there are some things like wars or things that are really happening in the world, and it's hard to know what's really in our control, and it can feel very overwhelming. Even adversity, such as somebody having a disease or anything, can be so hard in life. And I think that at this moment we can find something that is in our control, to not like enjoying this time, but just to live from more neutral and calm place. But again, I think it comes down after to what we're thinking, really. I think what we're thinking, from what we're thinking, will really create our life. So we don't have to love a situation, but for sure, sometimes the choice, like it's not supposed to, or I'm stuck, or it's not supposed to happen to me. We just need, again, this going back to the idea of the choice, that it is a choice, unconscious until now, but it is a choice we're making to keep on thinking these thoughts. And then we all know how it goes. We spin and think, it's not supposed to happen to me. It always happens to me. The brain, again, is so efficient. It doesn't offer us the best thought ever. It just offers us the most accessible, like the first one, the one we've been thinking over and over again.
I completely agree. And it's a choice whether you want to accept your situation or not in those situations. So I know that when one gets sick, or one has like a disability, or something happens to you that flips your world upside down, it can be easy to say, I have no control in my life. But you do. At the moment, you're just overwhelmed, but you have control of your thoughts. You have control of the self-talk that you talk to yourself, the way that the guilt that you're placing upon yourself, the pressure that you're putting around the people around you. Sometimes the people that try to help us the most are the ones that we're the meanest to, because they're within our proximity and we're letting our frustrations out. So be very conscious of what you're doing, because those are the little things that you do have control over. Like you said, especially right now that we're having like the wars in the world, that right now the residents there don't have a lot of control in their environment. So there's different things that they can do to control, like their emotions, their community, trying to support each other and help each other, and try not to be as divided and make the problem a lot worse within their community. And so it's limited what you can do, but it's something. So at least it gives you a sense of control back.
Yeah. No, it's true. And what you said about overwhelmed, and also you mentioned emotion, I also believe that for 10, 15 minutes, maybe it's something very hard happening. Like it can take even a few days, a few weeks, but to process really the emotion, which again, I think, imagine if we would learn at school how to really process some emotion, which to me, just stopping a second and I have a list of emotions, because sometimes we say, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm okay. But I have a list of so many different emotions, and then you can pinpoint at it, and we feel it's like at home, we feel better with our own stuff. So I think when we know, this is exactly how anger feels like, it just feels better. So it just, I think for everybody also that feel insecure, self-doubt, it's just to look, like to just see where it is in our body. Maybe it's a lot on my chest, I have the emotion, and just to be present with the emotion, because I think we got a bit too, this negative, not positive, toxic positivity, that we have everything to be happy, negative emotions are bad. We're not supposed to feel bad. Eat an ice cream. You're going to feel better. Not saying anything wrong about this, but I do believe that actually maybe negative, uncomfortable emotions, my theory is that 50% of the time we're going to feel them because of something we're thinking or just because, again, we're not aware of it and nothing's wrong. We can just feel the negative emotion and then, as you said, take action or do something about it, even if it's something small. But I think there is something about negative emotion, which self-doubt, insecurity. I'm not supposed to feel this way, but as much as I'm a confidence coach and I'm learning also American Sign Language, so I'm like testing myself so much on building my confidence when I speak fast and they are signing very fast and I'm getting mad, but just to show that we will feel insecurity, I will feel more self-doubt as much as I want to be an example of like having confidence. So I just want to say emotions are not that bad. Like I think the negative and the uncomfortable ones, just if we can get familiar with them. And again, as we said, make them way less serious than they appear, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what you said is also very important. You have to be able to reflect. I feel, like you said, I wish we're taught that at a young age, but we just feel or we hold it in and we just move on, but we don't really process and learn what triggered me. Why did I feel that emotion? Was that a natural response or was that out of line? Like a lot of the times we hold on to emotions, to grudges, to certain things that are not necessarily stemming from that situation. It might be something that happened beforehand that triggered it, and it could be a learned response. And then the more you repeat that emotion with that trigger, you're ingraining it into your system. It will be more difficult as you're an adult to undo those things. So a perfect example would be, for me, I had such a hard time networking when I was younger because I was bullied. So every time somebody came up to me, I was always under the assumption that they were going to make fun of me, they were going to hit me, they were going to do something to take down my self-esteem. So when I went into high school, when people that had good intention came up to me, I would avoid them or make the conversation short because I always assumed that they thought less of me. So it took years and years of therapy, of confidence building, of life coaching to deprogram that people are not out to get me. It just was an isolated incident that I then I use that fear, that expression, that experience into my head, and I learned that behavior. So it's a lot of deprogramming that you have to do.
Yeah. No, it's such a good example that you gave also, unfortunately, that you had such a good example to give, because it is true that, no, I was touched a bit by what you said. It's true that it's also often when we realize it's turning on the light in a room where you see why you feel, for example, bullied or you feel triggered, you don't really want to turn on the light because you don't want to really see the source, as you mentioned before. And at the same time, this is also the place where I think we can use anything that is happening as a way to build our confidence and love ourselves better than beating ourselves up. Instead of when we turn on the light and we see this is what's triggering me, it's a bit meta thinking about this thinking, but I do believe that we've been thinking if you grew up and this was happening to you at school, in high school, it's so hard that just to have a bit of compassion for ourselves and just understand that we did our best at this time, I think, to make peace with this previous version of ourselves. I don't know if what you think since you were talking about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this is where we come in and we start doing all the life coaching with them because they may not realize those connections. And this is where I really like to push people to not only seek a therapist, but also a life coach. That way you can work with someone that fixes your past and you can work with someone that takes those thoughts and helps you implement them into the present and move forward. Because we're limited based on working on right now, the problems right now, versus a therapist is only limited on working on the things that ail you in the past that are holding you back. It's easy for us to live life doing these actions. And then we think, like I said, oh, I'm fixing the problem by changing my behavior. But if you're not seeing what's causing that behavior, it makes it hard for you to have substantial permanent change.
Yeah, it's true. And so you would say that for you, it was the combination, just I'm curious because I find it very interesting. It's the combination of them, like also in what way life coaching helped you back then and therapy, like what was different or did they complete each other? I'm curious.
Yes. So for me, it was a holistic approach because I had a therapist and I had a life coach, two different individuals. However, we worked on the same problem, which was my lack of confidence, my segregation of society. So my therapist really dug deep and asked like the questions to make me reflect, why was I not moving forward? Why was I consistently going back to the same behavior? And it took a lot of sessions before I finally admitted to myself, oh, this stems from when I was younger. I had this one incident that happened and I learned that behavior. So I never wanted to feel like that again. So I just avoid people in general. And my life coach was like, okay, so we found that out. So does that still define you? And I was just like, okay, have you learned any valuable skills and experiences since that point that counter counters that effect that you had back then? And I was like, yeah, I've had really good interactions with people. Then why are you still holding yourself to that version of yourself if you're no longer that version? So it was like a lot of aha moments. So it was a very holistic approach, but I did see the limitations that I would ask questions to my therapist and he would be like, talk to your life coach about that because we really can't. That's out of my scope. And I would ask my life coach some questions and be like, that sounds like therapy. So go talk to your therapist.
It's amazing. It's a great combination, honestly. That's great. No, I find it really, it's a great combination. And no, I'm really convinced. I like just to get some experience to see how people found the help. Like also, we mentioned before a tip. There is also a tip, which again, when it comes to trauma, things that happened in the past, this I'm honestly saying that I did not learn yet. I hope one day I find it interesting. But if it's not trauma and it's the past I'm not saying we use it against ourselves, but like you said, we identify ourselves as like, this happened to me, so it means this about me. I like the idea. It's a small trick, sometimes that I use. Of course, not wishing it to anybody, but to have amnesia, just imagining waking up in the morning without the suffering anything, but just not having any story we tell about like ourselves, which of course I don't want to summarize what you just shared. That was really emotional and I really connected on this, but just some people say this happened to me in the past. And I believe sometimes as much as trauma, again, I have no idea about this, but that our past exists in the thoughts that we have about it. Sometimes we really use it, bring it back on the dating, for example. I saw, but this happened to me. So the idea of amnesia. So sometimes when we feel very insecure or self-doubt, if we just don't have any souvenir of bad experience, presentation that went wrong or anything, imagine how differently we may show up in the world, like walk on the street and everything, if we don't have all of this nagging voice, these stories that we tell, and exactly what you say, identify ourselves with it.
Yeah, and that's a powerful exercise. I think that you do have to envision how would you, and that, like even walking them through it, how would your life be different if that didn't happen to you? How do you feel that you would be today? Would you have more confidence? Do you think that you would? And it really helps them analyze what their weaknesses are and what are their pain points that they have to work on and continue developing on. And a lot of people think that I'm going to go to a life coach and I'm going to fix that one problem and all of a sudden I'm going to be perfect. No, a lot of the clients that I work with come with me with one problem, but then by the end of the session, we fixed that one problem, but that created like 7 others that they didn't realize, they didn't create, but it unraveled 7 others that they didn't know were problems and that are holding them back. So this is one thing that I always tell people, and I do this for myself. Self-growth and professional development is something that is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You're never going to reach that level of enlightenment where you're like, I am a perfect being. I can no longer grow, because new technology is coming out, new advances, new psychological research is coming out, new life coaching methods. People are consistently growing. We still only tap what I think last time I saw 10% of our brain. So how are you supposed to truly know yourself when you're only using 10% of what you have? So it's just like we have so much more growing to do. So don't limit yourself and set this bar that once I reach here, then I'm going to stop developing.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And what you said, it's a moving target. It's like running a marathon without an ending, because it's never going to be enough. Because as you said, also I think the brain always wants to reach, looking for a problem, looking for something to solve. And yeah, I think it's exactly that. I wanted to ask you what you think about the idea that the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. If somebody is coming up like with one problem, thinking that this needs to be not fixed, but they want to improve it, what do you think about it?
Certain behaviors come from a certain foundation on the way that we learned how to survive and grow and prosper. For example, me and my sister are two completely different people. I was the firstborn. She's the secondborn. I was taught that I had to be the one to experiment and try new things because I'm the one that's leading first. So I had to try and fail and then learn and adapt. So I'm a little bit more inquisitive and more brave of trying new things versus my sister is more of a follower. She learned from what I did and then more carefully took that paved
Mm,
path. So now that she's on her own, she is very scared of taking risks because she's always down with the safe side. So she's very codependent on her
interesting.
partner, on other people. So a lot of her decision-making process has more codependency versus for me, it's more independency. And this is I have actually had this conversation with my family where I have traveled to 4 different countries on my own for about a span of 2 weeks each. And I just met so many wonderful people. I just ventured out and did so many wonderful experiences, tried all these different types of foods that I would have never tried if I didn't do this self journey. Because
Mm,
when you're in groups, I was like, "Do you want to try alligator?" And they're like, "No, I don't want to do this." And I was like, well, "I'm going to do it." Do you want to try escargot and snails? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And it's wonderful delicacies that you would never try if you didn't do on your own. And my family's, I don't understand how you do that. Don't you get lonely? Don't you like crave somebody to experience these with? And I was like, no, because I'm never alone. Because whenever I'm out there and I've learned how to network now, I always ask people like questions and I try to immerse myself with the community and I make friends everywhere that I go because I'm putting myself out there and being my authentic self and people tend to like that. And as long as you're being respectful, you're not being like you're not shunning their culture, you're not disrespecting their culture and you're trying to be as inclusive as possible, it will be a very good experience. So people naturally do based on what they learned when they were younger. And I do think it stems from childhood, but I think based also the decisions that we make as adults, if we don't fix some of those small little things, cracks in our walls and our
mm,
foundation,
yeah.
then we only strengthen them in the future. So it makes it harder for us to break those down and refix it.
Yeah. And I think life coaching, it's not about fixing ourselves. I like also to think we're not broken. It's something very common, usually what you and me are coaching on. It's when we say that we are waiting for some accomplishments or to get somewhere to feel good about ourselves, to exactly what you mentioned before. I like also the analogy of a newborn because everybody gets crazy about the newborn. And when you think about it, the newborn did not say anything. They did not do anything. They are even doing the opposite as much as they're cute, but it's a lot of work for people. I'm not a parent myself, but I can feel it. And I do believe that they are so valuable, so important. And I like to remind myself, I'm just a grown-up newborn. You too, like we all are. And after all, it's if we don't tie our value and our worth to what we're doing, our accomplishment, because as we said, it's a moving target. I just believe it's if we put our worth out to it and we just, again, what you said, travel or reach for goals just because it's fun and who we become by reaching the goal, just makes things fun. Again, it's not about getting there and then we get worthy. I think our worth is absolute and we can just think about the newborn one. Honestly, when you think about it, everybody gets crazy and it's crying all day long.
And you do have to treat yourself like a newborn, but the only caveat to that is that you're parenting yourself. As an adult,
Mm,
you're the parent. You're the one in the control with the money, with the time, with the dedication. So you tell yourself, how many times did we tell ourselves when we
it's
were younger,
true.
when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna eat pizza all day, I'm gonna eat ice cream all day, I'm gonna stay up, I'm gonna go to all the parties. And when you get there, you're like, that's not really realistic. You know?
It's so true. I never thought about adding this part of the grown-ups tip. No, it's so true. The taking care of ourselves. I think, yeah, you're right. It's more, and us also paying attention to what we're thinking. Again, I'm going back to this because it's just my favorite. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I like it. I'm convinced. I will use it as a second part of my analogy. I promise I will name you.
That's fine. Use it, utilize it. I use this a lot too because and the most common thing that comes to me is that I grew up eating the same foods because we didn't have enough money to be able
Mhm.
to try different restaurants and whatnot. So when I went to college and I started making my own money and I was just taking care of myself and I had extra funds, I was like, I'm going to parent myself and give what I didn't have when I was younger. So I'm going to try a different restaurant every week. I'm going to try different foods and different things so that I can have all these experiences. And you had a really good week, Jaime. I am going to treat you out to ice cream to this week. And I have those talks with myself and those little rewards, because you do need to parent yourself and have those talks, but not only with the good, also with the bad. You really reacted wrong right there. You yelled at this person, you hurt their feelings. Was it really fair for you to raise your voice at them? And go and apologize. So I'd have these little talks in my head, like scolding myself and no, go do that. And then I'm like, okay, fine. And I go and I do it. But it
Great.
is, you are parenting yourself.
Yeah, and I like also how you brought it, like just to say also again, it's going back after all, I think, to what's in your control, and then to every situation you can do something about it from this parent place. And again, I like it's also when I talk about decision making, it's a topic that comes often in confidence, because we think that there is a right or wrong decision, which we discussed that there's no pros and cons. It's also thoughts we have about things. So it's just interesting to be aware and just really, to realize that actually it's, when we say also parenting, we don't want to make it too serious, as when we talked about making decision, people, it sounds heavy. So I'm just like thinking in this moment, you have a choice, you just decide just to take it light. So the parenting, it's exactly the same. Just sometimes you let yourself eat the ice cream because you did it in a good way. But yeah, I agree with you. But it's a great analogy. I loved it. I'm going to keep
it. Thanks. So I know we hit a lot of great material today. So we are in our last question, and I want to go back with the premise of the podcast, which is creating unicorns. So in your mind, let's say in the realm of confidence or anything that we talked about today, what can a listener who wants to kickstart the unicorn journey and be a better version of themselves, what can they do to start that process?
The question to ask ourselves is, we also seek a lot, which is not a question now, but we seek a lot approval and validation from other people. The question really, if I could live my life exactly the way that I want it to, which sounds again can be very overwhelming, but I think to beat this unicorn that you talk about in all of your episodes, in my definition, like for me, at the end of the day and at the end of our life, we will want to look at our life with integrity, wanting to make the choices we wanted. And again, it doesn't mean leaving our job, living only on an island. Like, I don't know, things that sound very extreme. It can be the very little thing, like taking more time for me, reading. I don't know, the little thing. And yeah, I believe that actually to be more of a unicorn, it's to try to imagine if nobody was judging and I could live my life the way that I want to, which, for example, now I'm being a coach, but I'm planning on being also a coach for hard of hearing and deaf people. And I'm already trying to embody that version of myself that have these two business for hearing and for hard of hearing and deaf people on the side, and already act as if, that I'm this coach. So I think just again, it was like, if everything would be possible, and for me, it's working only 4 days a week. So it's, if anything would be possible, because I believe that the light bulb, like everything was first created in our thoughts, like somebody created that it could happen, the plane and everything. And then it became reality. They worked on it very hard, but it became reality. So I think for everybody to be their unicorn, okay, what does that look like for you? And yeah, actually, what would be one tiny step to do today as you to embody that version of you being already this unicorn, I think. And it can be easy stuff again, like 4 days a week. It doesn't have to be extraordinary, saving the planet.
I completely love that. And I 1,000% agree with you. I'm currently in the process of training for a marathon, and it's one of the biggest feats I've ever done. So one of the best advice I heard was, don't think of yourself as a person that is doing a marathon. Think of yourself as a runner running a marathon. If you act like a runner, you think like a runner, you will become a runner. If we have the mentality that we're a person that is trying to run, that's the behavior that's going to come. But if you say, I am a runner, how am I going to change my behaviors to be this person that I am? You'll have a different completely way of living and mentality for it.
It's incredible that you said it, because I think a few days ago I read it about somebody wanting to stop to smoke, like smoking. And no, I'm trying to smoke. It completely feels different than, I stopped smoking. Oh, I don't smoke. Like becoming already that person, which I think for diets, which again, life coaches, I think for me, like it's everything, because we work again on the cause and the source of the problem, if we can say it's a problem. It's really the idea of somebody that is I don't want to say skinny, but maybe like ordinary weight, will think completely different thoughts as to somebody who it's emotionally, which can happen, and there's nothing wrong. I'm all about intuitive eating. I was going to say intentional, which the same. But we don't overeat, for example. We don't use, it's completely different if you just embody that version of yourself. And I'm so into manifestation and everything. Actually, I believe we manifest, you too. But I think we actually manifest. People say I'm not spiritual. Like, I think we anyway manifest our life. So I would say if it's happening anyway, I prefer to be intentional with my life. So I just also like to embody this, like this future version of myself, and the decision making so much easier. For example, for the marathon, if you're a runner, you can be tired, but you don't take it or dread. You can dread it, but you just go. You take dread in with you, and you just, I think it's the embodied version, and then you become this version. I find it so exciting. I'm telling you, I love it now.
I love it. And I love the enthusiasm. And I completely agree. Like, as soon as I started changing that mindset, I went from, like, before, when I tried to run just for the sake of running, I would tell myself, I'm tired. I'm not successful. I'm not running. I'm not, like, I should be loving this. Versus now I'm thinking I am a runner because I am running every day. So I was like, I'm sore.
Wow.
But I'm sore because I've made so much progress, because I'm like, actually, because I'm doing this. So it's a different mentality. Even like you said, what used to bring you down is now bringing you up, and you're focusing on different things, and it definitely changes your mood, your confidence, your
For sure.
everything.
And I think often when it comes back just to confidence as a postscriptum here, which is not scriptum since we're talking, but it's like people, they think that they're gonna be confident when they get there. But again, it goes back to what permission they will give themselves, like what they will be thinking. I had this extra money, this bonus this year, I feel better about myself. But again, it's never the circumstance, as we go back to circle to the start, but it's really what we're thinking about. So exactly, when we can try to change our mind about it and become this version again, it doesn't have to be so extreme, but I find there are no downsides to do it. So I find it very exciting. I think confidence, people, we all know also people that are not so impressive. I have respect for everybody. They are just confident because it's, again, the power of belief. They just believe in themselves. So it's not depending on accomplishment or where you come from. This is why I find it, again, very empowering.
Completely agree. And I want to keep going, but I know that we're running out of time. But this has been such a fantastic episode. I will definitely be bringing you back on. But if a listener wants to work with you or has questions about confidence or just life coaching, or even this new venture that you're talking of entering, how can they get in contact with you?
Yes. So actually my website, which is again an example of confidence, since I started it without having the clear intention, but you don't have to be ready to start anything, is called personaldevelopmentzone.com. So you can find me there. And I'm sharing actually 17 random facts. So if you just wanting a bit of entertaining while listening to this, after this, of course, in the metro or anything. And this is the main one. I have also on Instagram also Fun and Confidence Coach. But I think that my website just has everything there in a simple way, because I'm all about simplicity. But I'm so glad that I was here. Thank you again so much for having me. Really, I really appreciate it.
Of course. It's been a pleasure. And listeners, just as a reminder, if you want to hear Tamara and read more about her, she'll show up on our Unicorn Wall of Fame on my website at raygoza-consulting.com, where you can see a bio of her along with all the other amazing unicorns that have been on the episodes. And all the links will be in the show notes and also on the blog. And quick reminder as well, episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. And don't forget to leave us that 5-star review. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Tamara. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I truly appreciate you listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and gained valuable insights. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. Until next time, this is Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza signing off.